Welcome to the new video of NeuroPhilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The quiet breakdown of meaning. There are moments in life when nothing appears to be wrong, yet everything feels misaligned. The routine continues as usual. Responsibilities are met. From the outside, life seems stable, even successful. But internally, something has shifted. Meaning has quietly drained away. What once inspired effort now feels heavy. What once felt alive now feels distant, almost foreign. This experience rarely arrives as a dramatic crisis. There is no single event to blame, no clear mistake, no obvious failure. Instead, it emerges as a persistent, low-grade discomfort, a sense that you are living inside a structure that no longer fits. The days move forward, but enthusiasm fades. The inner spark dulls. Life continues, but it feels strangely hollow. Carl Jung did not interpret this state as weakness, laziness, or a loss of discipline. He understood it as a psychological turning point. According to Jung, the human psyche is not static. It evolves in cycles. There are periods of growth, construction, and outward expansion, followed inevitably by periods of contraction, disintegration, and reorganization. When one cycle completes, the psychic energy that sustained that way of living begins to withdraw. Jung referred to this turning point as enantiodromia, the moment when a system pushed too far in one direction begins to transform into its opposite. When the ego has exhausted its role, when the identity built to navigate a particular phase of life has reached its limits, the psyche seeks balance. What feels like inner collapse is often the beginning of inner correction. This is why the first signs are subtle. A vague restlessness, a quiet dissatisfaction without a clear cause. You may notice that familiar environments feel oddly suffocating. Conversations feel repetitive. Achievements that once brought pride now feel empty. You are not unhappy in a conventional sense, but you are no longer nourished by the life you are living. Jung believed this state is not a malfunction of the psyche, but a signal. The unconscious does not destroy randomly, it communicates. And at first it communicates gently, through boredom, apathy, loss of motivation, and an unnamed sense of this is no longer it. These feelings are not meant to be eliminated quickly. They are meant to be listened to. The ego, however, resists. It prefers continuity, control, and familiarity. It looks for external explanations. Burnout, stress, lack of discipline, distraction. It attempts to fix the discomfort by changing surface details. New goals, new routines, new distractions. But none of these work for long because the problem is not external. The structure itself has expired. At this stage, the persona, the social mask built to function in the world, has completed its task. It once provided direction, belonging, and identity. It helped you adapt, succeed, and survive. But now it has become rigid, too narrow, unable to contain the complexity that is emerging from within. The soul begins to press against its walls. This pressure is experienced as unease, as a sense of stagnation, as the feeling of playing a role that no longer belongs to you. The body may continue moving forward, but the inner self has already stepped away. Jung described this as the moment when life begins to break down from within, not as punishment, but as preparation. This breakdown of meaning is the threshold, a psychological waiting room. Nothing new has appeared yet, but the old can no longer be sustained. The greatest mistake at this stage is to panic and rush for answers. The ego wants immediate clarity. The psyche asks for patience, because this discomfort is not asking you to fix your life. It is asking you to outgrow it. And when this quiet breakdown is ignored for too long, the psyche stops whispering. It begins to speak louder. The void and the withdrawal of psychic energy. After the first sense of misalignment settles in, a deeper experience begins to take shape. It is no longer just discomfort or quiet dissatisfaction. It becomes a void, a heavy inner emptiness that cannot be named, explained, or easily escaped. Life still functions, but something essential feels absent. The world continues to move, yet you feel oddly disconnected from it. This void is often misunderstood. Many interpret it as depression, burnout, or emotional weakness. While it may resemble these states on the surface, Carl Gustav Jung saw it differently. In analytical psychology, this emptiness is not a flaw to be corrected, but a signal of transition. It marks the moment when psychic energy begins to withdraw from the structures that once gave life meaning. Jung observed that the psyche invests energy, libido, not merely sexual but vital energy, into roles, goals, beliefs, relationships, and identities. These investments are what make life feel purposeful. But when a life pattern has fulfilled its developmental function, the unconscious slowly pulls this energy back. The result is a sense of inner deadness. Things that once mattered no longer carry emotional weight. This withdrawal does not happen because something went wrong. It happens because no further growth is possible within the existing framework. The psyche understands this long before the conscious mind does. What feels like loss is actually conservation, energy being reclaimed in preparation for transformation. At this stage, motivation cannot be forced. The harder one tries to get back on track, the more exhausted and empty one feels. Life begins to operate on autopilot. Tasks are completed, conversations happen, responsibilities are met, yet there is no inner participation. Jung described this as the moment when the ego continues its movements while the soul has already stepped away. A defining feature of this void is that it cannot be filled from the outside. People often attempt to escape it through stimulation, travel, consumption, new relationships, intense experiences, productivity, or constant distraction. These efforts may provide short-lived relief, but the emptiness quickly returns. It is like trying to light a fire with damp wood. The conditions for ignition no longer exist. The reason is simple. The persona has reached the end of its usefulness. The social identity you built to function in the world once served an essential purpose. It provided structure, recognition, and direction. But now it has become too tight, too predictable, too shallow for what is emerging within you. The unconscious no longer supports it with energy. Jung emphasized that this stage is not pathological by nature. It becomes pathological only when it is denied, rushed, or misinterpreted. When the ego insists on restoring the old sense of control, it deepens the split. Resistance creates anxiety. Forcing meaning creates exhaustion. Pretending nothing is happening leads to inner breakdown. The void, in Jung's view, is a psychic summons. It is the soul calling attention to the fact that an entire way of being has completed its cycle. This is why the emptiness feels existential rather than situational. It is not tied to a single loss or disappointment. It is tied to identity itself. What makes this phase especially difficult is that it offers no immediate replacement. The old has lost meaning, but the new has not yet appeared. The ego finds this unbearable. It wants direction, labels, and solutions. But the psyche operates on a different rhythm. Before something new can emerge, space must be created. This is why Jung described this state as a threshold, a liminal zone, a psychological waiting room between two lives. Nothing is being built yet because something still needs to dissolve. The task here is not action, but listening. Not control, but presence. If the ego can tolerate this silence, even briefly, the unconscious begins to speak more clearly. But if the void is constantly anesthetized with distraction, the psyche will eventually escalate the process. What begins as emptiness will turn into disruption. Because the void is not the end of meaning, it is the clearing where meaning can be reborn. When reality turns symbolic and old patterns collapse. As the inner void deepens and the ego loses its grip, the psyche begins to communicate in a different language. Words are no longer enough. Logic starts to fail. Instead, meaning arrives through symbols, images, and events that feel charged, uncanny, and impossible to ignore. Reality itself begins to behave differently. This is the stage Carl Gustav Jung described as the activation of synchronicity. Coincidences multiply with unusual precision. A thought you barely articulated appears moments later in a conversation, a book, or a random image. You think of someone you have not spoken to in years, and they suddenly reach out. A symbol from a dream appears in waking life as if the boundary between inner and outer worlds has thinned. Jung did not see these moments as superstition or chance. He described synchronicity as a meaningful but non-causal connection between events. They are not linked by cause and effect, but by symbolic significance. During periods of psychological transition, these events increase because the unconscious senses that the ego structure is weakening. This opening allows guidance to surface, not through instructions, but through meaning. At the same time, dreams intensify. They stop being fragments of daily residue and become emotionally charged, often unsettling experiences. Common themes appear: falling, collapsing buildings, losing teeth, being exposed, dying, giving birth, or descending into dark places. Jung observed these dream patterns repeatedly in patients undergoing deep transformation. In symbolic language, these images are clear. A house represents the psyche itself. When it collapses, the foundation of identity is being questioned. Death in dreams rarely refers to physical death. It signifies the end of a psychological position, the dissolution of a former self. Birth, water, caves, or serpents point toward unconscious material preparing to emerge. What makes these dreams especially powerful is not just their imagery, but their emotional intensity. People often wake with a racing heart, tears, fear, or a strange certainty that something has shifted. Jung believed that in these moments, the dream is not merely symbolic, it is part of the transformation itself. Something real is happening in the psyche. But the most destabilizing aspect of this phase does not occur in dreams or symbols. It appears in daily life. The tools you have relied on your entire life suddenly stop working. Strategies that once ensured stability, control, avoidance, pleasing others, intellectualization, lose their effectiveness. You repeat old patterns, but they produce no results. Relationships that once felt secure begin to unravel. Work that once gave identity now feels suffocating. Emotional reactions that once protected you now create conflict. It feels as though life itself is blocking your attempts to remain who you have always been. For Jung, this is not coincidence. The psyche has an autonomous intelligence that moves toward wholeness. When the ego crystallizes in a rigid form and refuses to evolve, the unconscious intervenes. It dismantles what no longer serves by withdrawing energy and breaking repetition. What once felt like stability is revealed as stagnation. This collapse is often interpreted as failure. People blame themselves, they try harder, they push more, they attempt to revive the old persona. But the more they insist, the greater the friction becomes. Jung observed that when the unconscious removes its investment from a structure, that structure decays. No amount of effort can revive it. This is why this phase feels brutal. The familiar ground disappears. The future is unclear. You are suspended between what no longer exists and what is not yet formed. Jung described this as a psychological death, a necessary disintegration before renewal. Mythologically, this stage has always existed. It is the moment when the hero loses their weapons, when the old gods die, when destruction clears space for something truer. The ego experiences this as chaos. The psyche experiences it as correction. Nothing is breaking because you failed. Things are breaking because they can no longer hold you. And when these patterns collapse completely, the transformation moves outward. The inner breakdown becomes visible. Reality itself begins to fall apart, setting the stage for the next phase of descent. The collapse of the world and the descent into loss. There comes a point in this process when inner disruption can no longer remain internal. What began as unease, emptiness, and symbolic disturbance now moves outward into concrete reality. Life does not merely feel unstable anymore. It visibly collapses. Events unfold rapidly and simultaneously, leaving little room for explanation or control. Relationships end abruptly, not through gradual decline, but through sudden rupture. Jobs that once seemed secure disappear without warning. Projects collapse despite effort and commitment. People who felt essential to your life simply vanish from it. Multiple cycles close at once, as if an entire chapter is being erased in a single movement. This simultaneity is what makes this phase so destabilizing. One loss might be endured. Several at once dismantle the very structure of identity. Carl Gustav Jung did not see this as misfortune or bad luck. He understood it as a reflection of deep psychic reorganization. When the unconscious withdraws energy from the old identity, the external world reorganizes to mirror that internal truth. At this stage, loss is not merely emotional, it is ontological. You are not only losing people, roles, or stability, you are losing who you were within them. A relationship does not end alone. The version of yourself that existed inside it dies as well. A job is not only income, it is identity, purpose, and social position. When several of these fall at once, the ego loses its narrative. This is precisely the point. Jung believed that the persona must be dismantled completely for individuation to continue. Partial collapse leaves room for return. Total collapse removes all escape routes. The psyche no longer allows old roles to survive the transition. Myth and psychology converge here. Across cultures, transformation is preceded by loss. Figures are stripped of their titles, protections, and identities before crossing into the unknown. This descent is not symbolic poetry. It reflects a psychological necessity. The ego cannot be reborn without first being undone. The pain of this phase is intense because it activates grief on multiple levels. There is mourning for what has been lost and mourning for the self that no longer exists. Many experience panic, helplessness, and profound disorientation. The familiar future dissolves. The past no longer applies. The present feels empty. The most common response is to cling, to try to restore what ended, to rebuild old connections, revive old roles, or replace losses quickly. But this almost always fails. Jung noted that during this stage, life actively prevents restoration. Doors close repeatedly, paths end decisively. The psyche is no longer interested in repair, it is committed to rupture. This is where many misinterpret the process as punishment. But in Jung's view, this destruction is purposeful. It removes false stability. It dissolves attachments that no longer align with the deeper direction of the self. What remains is painful, but it is honest. This stage requires mourning, not avoidance, not premature rebuilding. Mourning clears space. It allows the old identity to be fully released. Without this grief, the psyche cannot reorganize itself authentically. After the collapse, something else emerges. An instinctive need to withdraw, a deep fatigue with the world. Social interaction becomes exhausting. Noise becomes unbearable. Explanation feels impossible. This is not collapse, it is descent. Jung described this as the withdrawal of psychic energy from the external world. The psyche turns inward, preparing for reorganization. This descent is frightening because it feels like disappearance, like losing direction, like becoming nothing. But this nothingness is fertile. It is the dark soil in which the new self begins to form, slowly, invisibly, and beyond the reach of the ego. And it is here, in this stripped and silent state, that the final confrontation approaches, whether to resist the transformation or to surrender to it completely. The choice to cross and the birth of the self. After the collapse, after the losses, and after the descent into silence, the process reaches its final and most decisive point. Nothing dramatic announces it. There is no external signal, no sudden clarity, no guarantee of safety. Instead, it arrives quietly as an inner recognition, a knowing that something irreversible has occurred. The old life is not paused, it is finished. At this stage, the ego finally understands what it has been resisting. The former identity can no longer be restored. Old roles, patterns, ambitions, and explanations feel hollow when revisited. Even the desire to return fades, replaced by the unsettling awareness that going back would require betraying something essential within. Carl Gustav Jung described this moment as the threshold of individuation, the point at which a person must consciously decide whether to cooperate with the transformation or continue resisting it. Resistance is still possible, but it comes at a cost. The psyche will not stop pushing. When the call is ignored, it repeats compulsively, and with each repetition, the suffering intensifies. This is why many people find themselves trapped in cycles of recurring crises. Relationships repeat the same conflicts. Careers collapse in similar ways. Emotional breakdowns return with greater force. Jung believed this was not fate, but the psyche insisting on evolution. The self does not argue, it waits. But if necessary, it breaks what refuses to move. And yet, there is a choice, not between comfort and pain, but between conscious transformation and unconscious destruction. To cross the threshold does not mean understanding everything. It does not mean certainty, confidence, or immediate direction. It means accepting that the old map no longer applies and that the new one has not yet been drawn. This acceptance is what Jung referred to as surrender, not submission, but cooperation. Surrendering to the process means allowing the unknown without trying to dominate it. It means tolerating uncertainty without rushing to replace it with familiar illusions. It means trusting that what is being dismantled is not your essence, but the shell that once protected it. At this stage, many fear that letting go means losing everything. In reality, what is lost has already dissolved. What remains is the possibility of alignment. The birth of the self does not occur in a dramatic moment. It unfolds quietly through small shifts in perception, values, and orientation. Life does not become easy, but it becomes honest. Jung never promised happiness as the outcome of individuation. He promised depth, consciousness, rootedness, a life no longer lived in opposition to one's own nature. The individual who crosses this threshold stops seeking validation from roles, approval, or external structure. Meaning begins to arise from inner coherence rather than achievement. This is also the point where patience becomes essential. The new identity cannot be forced into existence. It must gestate. The psyche needs time to reorganize itself around what has been uncovered. Attempts to rush this stage often recreate old patterns in new forms. Stillness, reflection, and presence are the true work here. Those who resist this crossing often experience life as increasingly hostile. Those who cooperate experience life as demanding but meaningful. The difference lies not in external circumstances, but in internal alignment. The self does not remove difficulty, it removes falseness. In Jung's words, those who refuse to become who they are meant to be are eventually destroyed by what they are not. But those who accept the passage, who allow the collapse to complete its work, emerge with something that cannot be taken away, a sense of inner authority, psychological depth, and a grounded relationship with life itself. The journey does not end here, but from this point on, it is no longer driven by fear or imitation. It is guided by truth. And once that truth is recognized, there is no turning back, only forward into a life that finally belongs to you.